The Alaska Range is not a place you visit. It's a place that decides whether you leave. This is the story of a solo climber, a tent, a storm that would not stop, and 4 days that felt like forever. There is a sound you hear in the Alaska Range before something goes wrong. It isn't thunder, it isn't cracking ice, it's silence. A silence so wide, it feels like the world has stopped breathing. And when that silence breaks, it does not break gently. The Alaska Range stretches like a frozen spine across the state. Denali towers above all, but the surrounding peaks are no less merciless. Crevasses the size of buildings. Storm systems born in the Pacific that slam into these mountains with unchecked force. In this landscape, rope teams are common. Partners share load, share warmth, share decisions. But John Baldwin chose something different. He chose silence. He chose to move alone. Not because he wanted danger, but because he wanted clarity. Solo climbing strips away comfort. It forces focus. It forces honesty. But it also removes the one thing that keeps most climbers alive. A second voice. The glacier was hard underfoot. Cold radiated upward through boots and into bone. The air temperature hovered below zero, but the sky was open, blue, vast, deceptively peaceful. John moved methodically. He probed snow bridges before stepping, scanned slopes for wind loading, measured pace to conserve energy. Solo climbers do not rush, because if you twist an ankle here, there is no rescue in hours. There may not be rescue at all. The Alaska Range has a way of swallowing radio signals and time. Weather forecasts in the Alaska Range are educated guesses. Storm systems build over thousands of miles of ocean. By the time they collide with these peaks, they mutate. On day 3 of his climb, the pressure dropped sharply. John didn't need an instrument to feel it. His ears sensed it. The air thickened. Cloud formations changed structure. Cirrus streaks flattened into heavy sheets. Wind began flowing from a new direction, colder, sharper. He checked his watch, checked the slope above, checked his remaining vertical gain. And then he made the first decision that mattered. He would stop short of the summit. He would camp early. He would wait. That restraint bought him survival. High camp in the Alaska Range isn't just pitching a tent. It's engineering. John carved a platform into the slope, anchored his tent using buried snow stakes, dead man anchors tied off to reinforced guy lines. He built snow walls around the windward side, packed blocks tightly to deflect gusts. Every angle mattered. Every knot mattered. Inside the tent, he organized equipment precisely. Stove near vestibule for ventilation. Fuel insulated inside sleeping bag to prevent freezing. Boot liners tucked close to retain warmth. Headlamp positioned within arm's reach. Because storms don't give warnings. They strike. Wind first. A low hum across the ridge, then vibration. The tent fabric pulsed, then snapped, then roared. Snow began blasting horizontally, fine crystals moving at violent speeds. Within minutes, visibility vanished. The mountain disappeared. There was no horizon, no up or down, just white chaos. Inside the tent, the poles bowed under pressure. Each gust hit like a physical shove. John lay still, listening, measuring, assessing. Storms are loud, but experienced climbers listen for specific sounds. The crack of failing poles, the tearing of stitching, the snap of anchor lines. So far, none. But this was only the beginning. The first night was a war of patience. The wind didn't fluctuate. It's sustained. Sustained wind is worse than gusts, because there is no relief. Snow piled rapidly against the tent walls. Every 2 hours, John forced himself outside, clipped in, shoveled snow away before weight collapsed the structure, in darkness, in screaming wind. Every exposed second drained heat. When he crawled back inside, frost had formed along the interior. Condensation from breath turned to ice crystals. He melted snow carefully, counting seconds of stove burn time. Fuel was finite, and storms in Alaska are not predictable. He lay down, closed his eyes. The tent shook violently. Sleep never truly arrived. Morning did not bring light. The storm deepened. Snow accumulation increased rapidly. The vestibule zipper froze partially shut. Digging became labor. Inside the tent, space shrank as snow pressed inward. This is where anxiety begins creeping. Not fear of dying instantly, but fear of slow failure, structural failure, fuel depletion, mental fatigue. He calculated consumption. If the storm lasts 48 hours, manageable. If it lasts 72, tight. If longer, he stopped the thought. Focus on present. Survival is not about the future. It's about the next hour. On the second day, the outside world no longer felt real. Time distorted. Wind was constant. White noise became psychological pressure. Humans are not designed for total isolation. We rely on subtle cues, bird sounds, tree movement, distant water. Here, nothing but mechanical wind. John spoke aloud at one point, just to hear a voice, even if it was his own. He performed small routines to maintain sanity, check knots, repack gear, stretch legs in confined space, recalculate descent plan. Structure prevents panic. Midway through the second night, a gust hit harder than the rest. The tent flattened briefly. Fabric touched his face. Pole joints strained audibly. That was the closest call. He braced with his hands against the wall to relieve tension. Waited. Seconds felt like minutes. The wind eased slightly. The tent rebounded. He reinforced anchors again, hands numb inside gloves, because fabric is thin. And beyond that fabric, there is only exposure. Fuel check, lower than comfortable. Food, still sufficient. Energy, declining. Hydration, critical. Melting snow, costs fuel. Not melting snow risks dehydration. Every decision now carried consequence. He reduced water intake slightly. Risky, but necessary. His body began feeling heavier, movement slower, sleep fragmented. This is the threshold where mistakes happen. Fatigue dulls judgment, and judgment is survival. By day 3, snow loading had reached dangerous levels. If the storm stopped suddenly, solar radiation or shifting wind could release slabs. Descending too early could trigger avalanche. Waiting too long could trap him longer. Timing would be everything. He imagined stepping onto a loaded slope, feeling that hollow whoomph, seeing fracture lines shoot outward. There would be no outrunning it. That fear stayed constant. Then it changed. He woke not to violence, but to stillness. The wind had diminished drastically. Not gone, but manageable. He waited 2 hours, testing, listening. Storm cycles can fake calm, but this felt different. And he unzipped the door. The world outside looked alien. Cornices swollen, drifts reshaped, tracks erased entirely. It was a new mountain. Descending after heavy snowfall is more dangerous than climbing up. Gravity assists error. He packed carefully, left nothing behind. Broke camp slowly. Every step was tested, probed, evaluated. Snowpack stability assessed continuously. At one point, the slope beneath him settled with a deep, muffled whoomph. His heart rate spiked instantly. He froze, waited. No crack propagation. But that sound was warning enough. He adjusted route lower, avoided convex rollovers, moved deliberately. The descent took far longer than ascent. Each section demanded analysis. Wind slab, leeward loading, crevasse fields now invisible under fresh snow. He roped himself across suspect sections. Solo technique. Anchored. Moved, reset, anchor, repeated. Time blurred again, but this time, movement replaced stagnation. Lower elevations brought firmer snow. Slope angles decreased, wind less severe. The danger slowly receded. When he finally stepped onto stable glacier terrain, there was no celebration. Only release. A long breath, shoulders relaxing. 4 days stormbound, alone, self-managed, self-descended. No outside intervention, no dramatic rescue. Just discipline. Survival is not dramatic heroism. It is restraint, it is preparation. It is saying not today to a summit. It is choosing patience over ego. The Alaska Range doesn't care about ambition. It doesn't reward bravery, it punishes haste. And for 4 days, John Baldwin didn't fight the storm. He endured it. And endurance is sometimes the greatest strength of all. If you want the next story, subscribe now so you don't miss the next survival story.